Morning, Wally.
All right, good morning. We have our number 6. Appreciate everybody venturing in this morning. So I will call the meeting of the Legislative and Human Resource Committee to order. And first item on our agenda is public comment. D. Jones.
Hello.
Oh, I better start everybody off. I did that on purpose for you. I wanted to, there we go.
Hello? Can y'all hear me?
You
All right,
bet.
I can hear myself. How you doing, everybody? I'm D. Jones, and I'll be bringing a $100,000 esports finals to King County June 8th, 2024. I'm very excited about this. I spoke to you guys about getting an investment of $250,000 to bring a $15,000 esports finals to the Van Andel Arena. But now I'm asking King County Board, Republicans, and Democrats to please help me bring this to our city. They've already paid the deposit, but they want to give me a professional esports team that'll eventually compete for 7 figures in this league. So as we talk about economic development, as we talk about our youth and young adults and people that have a dream and vision of being a professional gamer and other additional careers. I've even spoke to Grand Action 2.0. I ran into Archie, who works there. So the DeVosses and the Van Andels and everybody else on their board is going to hear about it. And I'm just going to put it out there because I'm a very bold and I'm a very fearless person. I truly want to change King County. And I want all of you guys to help support this. I know that you guys, it wasn't ARPA fund eligible, but you guys know businesses. You guys know people who have sponsorship funds that can pour into this. And this venture is going to be huge. It's going to be a lot of famous people. I've even been able to connect the super legendary Chief Keef. If you guys don't know who Chief Keef is, look up Chief Keef on I'm pretty sure. You guys, this is one of the hoodest guys from Chicago, changed the whole trajectory and culture. Even people from GR started to dress like Chief Keef and call themselves Sosa. And so I know how incredible and powerful these gamers can be, and I actually connected Chief Keef's organization, Globe Navy, to Epic Games. And Epic Games, which is a $32 billion company, wants to come here to King County. That could be so powerful because they've never came here to King County ever. We've never even hosted $100,000 finals or given away anything at that level. I know how big this is, and I really want you guys' support. I don't want you guys to shun me off. Like I said, I spoke to the DeVosses. I went to Grand Action 2.0, and I'll go knock on the door again today. I'm going to go to the Community Foundation. I don't want you guys to overlook this. I'm tired of being overlooked. I don't ask you guys for a lot. I've been consistent. I showed up. I asked you guys for an opportunity last time, and now it's here. Now it's here in everybody's face, and it's going to be powerful. It's going to be super powerful. I'm going to be on an influential list. I'm going to be on the Forbes again. I'm going to be on all of these powerful lists, and I don't even see how I couldn't be. I don't see it. Unless they just try to snub me. I don't see how I don't get it. I'm not even trying. This is just who I am. This is what I've been consistently doing and showing up and asking King County to do. I've been able to connect to colleges, and they're very excited. Their whole colleges and communities and students and faculties want to come to these events. This is going to be powerful. And I'm just asking King County Board, the Human and Legislative Resource Committee, to please, you guys know powerful people, you guys know businesses, please connect these people to me so I can help change King County equitably for everyone, for every district. Thank you.
Thank you, D. Jones. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard during the public comment? All right, seeing no one, we will close that portion of our meeting. Do I have a motion and support for last meeting's minutes? I have a motion by Pakla, supported by Diaz. Any comments, questions, or changes? If not, all those in favor of approving last meeting's minutes, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, last meeting's minutes have been approved. All right, next item on our agenda brought to us from the Department of Public Works, the Material Management Plan Notice of Intent. And I will be asking Dar and Steve, or Dar or Steve, to do a little presentation on that. And then I will first perhaps ask for a motion and support on this, and then we'll have them do their presentation. So moved by Diaz, supported by LeGrand. All right, Dar, you're in the hot seat.
Good morning, Commissioners. I flipped a coin with Steve and I lost, so here I am. You're probably thinking, good grief, we need to talk about trash yet again, but it's a real thing. And for those that don't recall, about 1 million tons of refuse is generated in Kent County annually by our businesses, our governmental entities, our schools, our residents. And over the last number of years, I think it goes back 6 or 7, I served on a state committee that helped put some policy thought around where would we go in the future. And as we did that, those that have some history with this, the first solid waste management plan was actually put in place in Kent County in 1990. And what we know now is Public Act 451, Part 115, which is the statute that manages or provides the guidance around how we manage waste in Michigan, is the impetus for that. So we, over the last few years, of course, have been doing a lot of work of our own, both as we think about what our future should look like, and now the state is actually coming alongside that process. So I wanted to share a few things on that this morning. So the materials management plan is what we used to call the solid waste management plan. It's really a perspective that allows us to think less about landfilling and think more about how we manage the materials that we place in the trash. I would say historically, indeed, going back to that first 1990 plan, and each county has a plan, was much more focused on disposal, making sure that we had a place to go with our trash. Because in the 80s and going into the 90s, there was a lack of disposal capacity, and so there was a real challenge and concern at the state level. So there's a number of definitions. I won't go through them all, but the Kent County Board of Commissioners is what's considered the county approval agency for this effort. And over the next number of months, if the Committee of Legislative and Human Resources and the Board of Commissioners move this forward, we'll engage a planning process that will be robust and take about the next 3 years to complete. So as I mentioned, when the state statute was amended here, and it was about a year ago, actually, I think it was in March a year ago when the state statute was changed, the preference was to move away from landfilling. There's been a lot of excitement and a lot of policy conversation at the state level to put more tools in the toolbox for counties and local municipalities to improve recycling, to improve diversion, and to move away from landfilling. There's certainly a process to ensure that there's enough capacity, not only for landfilling, but for alternative solutions. And it really allows us to re-engage local governments. Most counties have lost their expertise in this area because it's been, I think, over 20 years since the EGLE, then DEQ, has last called for a plan update. So through retirements and just people moving on, a lot of the counties kind of lost that expertise. Fortunately, I think the state's doing a really good job. EGLE has put together a template and a planning format. They've, over a year ago, began to bring counties back together, and we've had a lot of virtual meetings. Steve's been engaged with the West Michigan Sustainable Business Forum, who received grant dollars, some from Kent County through the state, to bring counties back together to start having conversations about how are we going to move forward together in the future and what might that look like. So the planning process really will help us identify all the facilities that we have today, the facilities that we need in the future, and the policies that we'll need to drive recycling and drive diversion. We're fortunate in that Kent County, I think, really took a leadership stance here several years ago with our wanting to divert 90% of what's going to landfill by 2030. So we've really engaged this process. And so this planning process from the state will just help us to additionally reinforce and improve what we've been working on. So what you need to know, the law is in effect. The statute actually requires all counties to have a materials management plan. In December of last year, so 23, the director did in fact issue the letter, and the planning process officially started January 8 of 2024. We have then 6 months to put a material management plan committee together, and there's other considerations with that notice of intent that we'll be asking you to approve. As I mentioned, it really focuses away from disposal and throwing things away, and it focuses more on how do you manage materials and divert them for reuse and for recycling. So this is just a quick overview of all the things that we'll be doing in the future. That I mentioned it, taking the inventory of the facilities we have, where we lack, what we need to improve on, where we want to invest both as a county and as private companies to improve our diversion rate in Kent County. So next steps. Our first step is to provide the state a notice of intent, and that would come from the County Board of Commissioners indicating to the state of Michigan that we intend to engage the process. There's really three things that could happen. Either the county engages the process and notifies the state that it's going to move forward. We could step back and several municipalities within the county could do it, or there might be a regional entity that may want to try to do it. We think it's best to be in the driver's seat. The positive here is that the state is funding this effort by formula. And I just talked to Steve a few minutes ago. Our understanding is that there's approximately $300,000 per year available to Kent County to engage the process. So in a 3-year period, there's roughly $1 million. Not that we have to spend it all on planning, but the dollars are there to help us engage the process, both by seating the committee, by bringing in consultants where we need them, and to make sure that we have a really robust plan once it's complete. Part of the approval process, once the plan is drafted, but let me just talk a little bit in terms of how we see this happening. With the Kent County Board of Commissioners approval, and last fall, anticipating this process, there was a request that those that were interested in serving on the committee, that they would apply through the normal cadence of the county appointment process. We have a number of candidates that have applied, and they're just kind of parked on the sideline waiting for this process to get going. Just to give you a quick view of what that looks like, we need to have a solid waste disposal facility operator, so a landfill operator, a representative from the hauling community, so a trash hauler, a material recoveries facility operator, not unlike our recycling center, but there's others like that out there, a composting or anaerobic digester operator, a waste diversion operator, a representative from an environmental interest, an elected official of the county, an elected official from the township, an elected official from a city or village, and then a business representative that generates managed material, or what we put in our dumpster today. So once that committee is appointed by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee and affirmed by the Board of Commissioners, then we'll draft a work plan and submit that to the state for their approval. Once we have that approval, we're eligible for the grant dollars, and then we'll start a drafting process that's expected to take about 3 years. Once the plan is drafted, and how we envision it is our Department of Public Works will staff that committee, that the Board of Public Works will provide oversight. And then once that plan is complete and the Board of Public Works signs off on it, it would come back to the Board of Commissioners for review and approval. And once that review and approval is completed, then it goes out to all the municipalities in Kent County, and we have to receive 2/3 approval from them. And then once that's complete, it goes to the state for review and ultimate approval. So there's certainly, in that 3-year period, time for Steve and I and our team to get on the road, if you will, meet with the townships, meet with the township supervisors and the various committees and organizations that are out there to help inform them, bring them along, get their input, and then ultimately come back and ask for their approval. So I ran through it pretty quickly, but that's just a quick overview of the process. Again, the state of Michigan, through Eagle, has been very supportive. We've been engaging and talking to counties around us. We think ultimately it's best that while a regional approach could be taken, and we'll continue to collaborate regionally, that we have our own our own materials management plan and not try to go joint with another county. One of the reasons that we're thinking that way is that, for example, if we needed to update or change our plan in the future, and let's just pick Allegan County as our partner, we would actually have to have their approval as well as our approval to make a change to the plan that's approved. And given the fact that we're more urban and our needs are different, we think it's best that we collaborate and continue to speak with and work with and bring solutions together. But we actually have a plan that's for Kent County for that benefit. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that was just a quick overview of kind of what happens next.
Great, thank you, Dar. Any questions for Dar? Commissioner LeGrand.
Thank you, Chair. A couple things. What is a waste diversion operator? You said there would be one of those on the committee.
Yeah, it'd be someone who is diverting waste from.
Be like a perfect circle.
Yeah, so perfect.
Headed for the landfill.
Yeah, Perfect Circle is a great example. So today, Perfect Circle will take in food waste, things that are off spec. Like they have customers like Gerber and others where maybe the container wasn't filled all the way or it's out of date. They actually take that back to their facility, they depackage it, and they recycle the packaging to the extent they can. They move the food waste to anaerobic digestion.
Sorry.
So that would be an example of someone who's diverting material. It'd be
Okay.
A perfect circle.
And how does all of this interact with our hopes and dreams
Yeah.
for the sustainable business park? I mean, that's the big question.
It is a big question, and Steve and I have actually thought about that quite a bit. I think if we were to think about the municipal advisory committee that County Administrator Vanderberg convened almost 2 years ago, I think, and brought us through, we had a fantastic group of local municipal leaders, and we had also a waste hauler there. This will broaden that a little bit, but we're going to roll up our sleeves. And frankly, we think all the work that we did in that process will really be mirrored in this process. And we're likely to land in a very similar place with the goals and the facilities and the things that we need to begin to divert greater volumes of material away from landfill. So in our mind, I think the planning process will mirror what we've done already. We'll probably affirm some things, and we may discover some new things too. But it is about a 3-year process. Not that we can't begin to implement things early, but certainly we can, for those things that we actually put into place early, we'll just catalog and place that in the plan. I think the goal, and Steve may have to remind me, I think the 2030 goal of the state is 30%? Yeah, it's 30% diversion.
So the state sets a benchmark. So the state wants to be at a 30% recycling goal by 2030. So every county has to show how are we going to help them achieve that 30% goal. Currently, we're at about 15 to 16% for Kent County. The way they calculate the recycling rate is that's a combination of recycling, like you would see at our recycling center, and organic diversion, composting.
Okay.
Not yard waste, because yard waste doesn't go to landfill. It has to be material that's currently going to landfill that we are actually keeping out, is how we calculate the recycling rate. So 30% by 2030, 45% by some future date. So we have to figure out basically how are we going to double the material that is sort of coming to the type of material that's coming to the recycling center. That can be through private partnerships and others. And then how are we going to double what's currently being composted or kept out of the land and future kept out of the landfill? If we had a facility similar to what was being proposed for the Kent County Bioenergy Facility, that would already carry us to almost 45%. So that's, I think, long answer to your question, but the facilities like those that we proposed, you see anaerobic digestion in here, mixed waste processing. We're going to have to look at those technologies. And so that's, I think, what DAR is, like a lot of what we've worked on over the last several years. I would say we were just a little ahead of the curve, but now everybody's kind of coming up to where we're at.
Well, I guess that's one thing. I mean, I'm really glad to hear that organic is part of that recycling rate, because to me, I feel like that's the lowest hanging fruit, because there's just so much of it going in there. So it would be possible, perhaps, that we would find a way to work on that before we got the whole shooting match
Yeah,
up
for
and running.
sure. So,
Okay.
I mean, just today, based on our waste characterization studies, 14% of what's coming into our facilities today is truly the organic material that could be like composted. There's another fraction of organic material that would need more processing, like anaerobic digestion, but certainly there's a lot of material today that is relatively low-hanging fruit. So through this planning process, we're going to be looking at how do we maybe look at organic collection as a separate thing, or putting in policy around source-separated organics, where restaurants might be required or schools might be required to put that material aside. Those are things that this committee would really explore, both what kind of infrastructure and investment do we need to make, but what are also some of the policy recommendations that we need to be thinking about at the county level to make these things happen. Those two things we know have to go together. It's not simply if you build it, there will be material. You have to also direct that material somehow. So I think this group will be looking at all those types of options.
Thank you very much.
All right, Commissioner Pacla.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to commend us and hope we continue to use the pun of low-hanging fruit as it relates to organic materials. I think it's a fantastic pun, so thank you. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the adjacent county discussions and the ways in which that's already happening, and in particular, I have a little bit more, as does Chair Burrow from the Board of Public Works, but the collaboration with the West Michigan Sustainable Business Forum and the work that they're doing, given that trash doesn't really know any county lines.
Sure. So I've been participating on a work group, a regional work group now for the last couple years, year and a half. So the Sustainable Business Forum had an agreement with Eagle to sort of run that process, really in anticipation of this work coming down the pipeline. So that group we're actually, the Sustainable Business Forum, we're working together on a new waste characterization study that's for really all material generated on the west side of Michigan. We've looked at some different opportunities for how to collaborate. A lot of it has just been identifying individuals within these other counties that are spearheading this effort. As Dar mentioned, Kent County is unique in that we do have a robust department. If you go across the county line, a lot of times it's a part-time staff person within the health department. Is their entire solid waste sort of resource for their community. So that's we're a little bit of the 900-pound gorilla in the room, and that's a little bit of our hesitation in doing a truly joint planning and approval process. So most of our discussion with our surrounding counties have been, how do we collaborate through this process? How do we make sure we're all kind of keeping track of each other and where we're going? Because a lot of those counties are going to be looking at our facilities as solutions to their problem, right? So our recycling center accepts waste from 7 other counties in addition to Kent County. They're going to say how much capacity is at that facility. Meanwhile, we need more capacity. So there's going to be that kind of ebb and flow and push and pull between, and then really discussions on what other facilities do we need to build. So, as we've had those discussions as a regional group, our conclusion is, an Allegan and a Berry County probably have a lot in common and would maybe make a lot of sense for a joint kind of plan. They can double their resources, they can do that kind of stuff. It made a little less sense for us to maybe have Kent County and some of our more rural partners, especially because we have waste to energy, we have the recycling center, we have an active landfill, we have closed landfills, we have a transfer station, we have household hazardous waste collection programs, we have Safe Camp. We have a lot going for us, and a lot of those other counties don't have those types of resources.
Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Burrow. So Dar, do all 83 counties have to have a plan in place?
Either they have to have a plan in place, or they have to have a regional plan, which would be multiple counties coming together. I could see that occurring probably in the UP. That's been a typical approach because low population, large areas of land, but a lot of it's national or, state forest. So if we don't if we don't put a plan in place, someone will put a plan in place, I guess is kind of where I would try to answer that. So if Kent County ultimately said, you know what, we don't want to write our plan, then the state would actually come in and write it for us. But it'd be very different in terms of how they would craft it versus how we might draft it. Short answer is yes, each county has to have a plan.
So the penalty, if you don't do it, the state's going to do it for you?
Yes.
Okay, so how are
Sorry.
our regional efforts going? That, you touched on it with the previous comment, but,
Yeah, we've touched base with Eagle, it's my understanding that in southeast Michigan, SEMCOG is gonna be a regional kind of planning agency for them. Again, in West Michigan, I think Kent County will end up doing our own plan, that's our recommendation, but other counties around us are talking with each other of possibly forming some kind of regional group. The other penalty, we've talked a lot at the Board of Public Works, what are the sticks and carrots of this thing? So one of the sticks that the state has is, if you don't do it, we're gonna do it for you. It's still the same goal, and we're gonna tell you how you're gonna get to the 30% recycling rate. And if you don't have a plan in the future, then you and other municipalities in your county will not be eligible for certain dollars from the state. So again, for us, it may mean like the city of Grand Rapids might not be able to apply for certain funding at the state level if we don't have a countywide plan in place. So there are incentives certainly for us to get it done. We think making it as localized and customized as possible is the best solution for Kent County.
so you got a big city like we do, and a lot of other counties do too, so what they're doing, we can use to count on what we're doing as a county then?
Certainly. The city of Grand Rapids brings us about 8,000 tons of recycling every year. That represents about a third of what we collect at the recycling center. So certainly that continued conversation with a group like the city of Grand Rapids and what they're thinking of implementing in the future. I know they're looking at curbside organic collection, for instance. That all helps move us towards our goal.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Bujak.
Thank you, Chair Burrow. Dar, you may have lost the coin toss this morning, but you did a great job, and I think Steve probably would have done an equally good job. I really appreciate your team approach. You guys are certainly very knowledgeable in the subject matter. My wife asks me, why spend so much time planning for the future? And I tell her, because the future is important. I plan on spending a lot of time there. So I think, So I think, the fact that we are looking ahead and we are planning, it's a requirement. We are certainly poised by the work that you've been doing to be, right at the forefront. And you said that it's better that we be in the driver's seat on this situation. And I really think that not just in this particular issue, but all issues, Kent County has shown the state of Michigan that we are leaders, and your approach to this is spot on. So I think doing all this, preparation for meeting up all these requirements is a good thing. You guys keep up the good work. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, Steve would do better than I would when he's up here, but so we'll just give that to him. Yeah, if I could just quick comment. It is, Kent County's seen as a leader, and we're blessed to be able to do that for the county and through our Department of Public Works. And we're passionate about trash. I know it's weird, but it is what it is. That's what we do. We wake up every morning and go, all right, got another 800 trucks coming in today. Let's go get it. But we do have a lot of knowledge, right? Our department's been operating for over 50 years, and I think we're the envy of the state. When you look at the type of facilities, the knowledge that we have here, the investment that we've been willing to make and our vision for the future. I'm pretty excited about it, yeah.
And to that point, with us being ahead of the game, the plan that's written by Kent County is probably a lot of information the state's going to steal with their plans. So I think we're going to be the leader in that and probably be able to kind of make our own path in the trash. So Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you, Chair. I have two quick questions. I think you've touched on both of them already a bit. But you mentioned that our recycling center currently takes in trash from other counties, I think you said. With this updated law and our projected plans moving forward, does the state, or more particularly, does the county still, do we take in trash from outside of the state? And if we do, how is that expected to change moving forward?
So two paths. One is when I look at our recyclables, our diverted material, we take recyclables from about 7 other counties, and then as well as from Kent. Overall, we do receive some municipal solid waste, trash, a small amount from Ottawa, a small amount from like Montcalm and the surrounding counties around us. By and large, they're taking care of their own needs. There's 3 significant landfill operations, one located in Montcalm, 2 in Ottawa County, that tend to attract, from a regional basis, a lot of the solid waste that is generated in West Michigan. We've always been tasked, and it's our charter, if you will, to meet the needs of Kent County first, and we do meet some of the needs of surrounding counties where we can. I think the one question that I would ask myself moving forward is, as we increase our recycling rate, and that's our goal, at some point our recycling center on Wealthy will max out. We need to meet Kent County's needs first and then be able to process what we can from those other counties. Right now we can process it all. I think we're taking in 33,000 tons a year. We're probably pushing the limit at about 40 to 45,000 tons. We may have to go to 2 shifts. There's ways to get it done, but our department has always, our charter, if you will, the Kent County Refuse Disposal System, as it was set up in the 60s, was to meet the needs of Kent County.
And then my second question, which I think, again, you've also touched on a little bit, is how much do you all think that putting a little bit more responsibility on individuals or on individual businesses or schools would help in this? I think you touched on curbside a bit, and in my view, if I'm not mistaken, having, say, 1 additional container for specifically organic material would help. You know, I have experience working in public schools, and I remember when I was doing that, I was just amazed at the amount of food that gets thrown out in schools. And these after-school programs where, you know, especially younger kids, they don't like the food that gets served, or there's just a bunch of leftover food. So how are we thinking about how we can put a little bit more responsibility on individuals, individual businesses or schools, and if that would help us reach these targeted goals and maybe even a higher percentage goals?
Well, and I think Steve spoke to that, in that it's not only policy, but it's the facilities. I look at it this way. It's about habits and practices. It's like what we're used to doing. It's also about transportation and the cost of putting another truck on the road. And you have to weigh out putting another truck on the road, for example, to pick up that organic fraction, organic material, separate from it can be a real challenge, because you have to decide, and the community needs to decide, are we going to source separate, right? Are we going to put our food waste in a separate container and get it picked up separately, so that we can bring it to a facility that does not have to be as robust to separate out the trash before it actually processes the organics? What we've seen nationally is that those types of programs can be really challenging. In fact, with the anaerobic digester that we were proposing and the way that we would sort out trash from the organics, you can take a picture of trash and a picture of organics and it looks the same way because of the trash bags and just plastic forks and all the other stuff that gets in it. But the truth of the matter is, a cafeteria at a school or a restaurant generate by far much more organic, but we generate a lot at home. So are we going to make it easy for everyone, put it in one cart and then separate it? Or are we going to take the steps to say, no, you need to separate it and have a separate cart? In the downtown area, what they'll tell you is, we don't have enough room for another container. Or we have, we're already moving trash at 4 in the morning and now we have to pick up the organics, right? So there's that give and take and push and pull as to how to best solve it. But we have to do something, right? We have to roll up our sleeves and make a decision. How are we going to get it done? Through policy and through having the facilities to actually manage the material. 1 million tons a year, just in our system, 800 trucks a day deliver disposal somewhere in Kent County, and that's not even speaking to the material that leaves Kent County, which is about half of it. So you could almost say there's probably 1,000 trucks a day moving, 1,000 truck deliveries a day of trash being tipped somewhere from Kent County.
Administrator Vanderberg.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with Commissioner Diaz's first question. I think it's really important to have a really clear answer to, do we take waste from other states or Canada? I heard no in your response, but it's important to.
So for West Michigan, the answer is no. We don't know of our landfill or any other private landfill in the West Michigan area that's importing trash from outside of the state. It certainly is happening on the east side of the state. I've stated this before, Michigan has the dubious distinction of being #1 in the nation for the amount of waste buried per man, woman, and child. At 62 tons under every one of our feet, we are #1 in the nation for buried trash. That is why the state is moving in this direction. It is going to, in the 90s, we really prioritized landfill disposal and we opened it up, and that's what led to very low landfill fees and then the importation of trash. The state is now trying to reverse that trend, make it much more difficult to site landfills. Landfill fees will be going up, and that should start to make Michigan less attractive for importing waste.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Ponstein.
Just a quick follow-up. So on the organic part, I'm assuming the state's going to have a target for that too?
So organic is calculated in their recycling rate goal. So right now, we divert about 7% of organic material from landfill in Kent County. We have to show how we're going to pick up another 8% on top of that 7% of organic material, as well as another 7 to 8% of recycling, as you kind of know it, single stream recycling primarily.
So if you look at the stream, you've got the big producers, cafeterias, restaurants, and all of that. And then the in-homes. Are any other states doing something where instead of putting a card up front, we show the person at home to compost? And can you get credit if they're composting at their own home?
Yeah, so that's how, part of this whole process is going to be really putting in new data systems and new ways of tracking that kind of information. Right now, if I don't put my banana peel in my trash can and it doesn't show up at Waste to Energy, there's no way that DAR knows whether I could have put my banana peel in there or somewhere else, right? So that's where some of the programs, so in the organic space, there are traditional compost-like organizations, like a Wormies, for example, is one, where they have a fee program. You can put your material in a bucket, and they'll come and pick that up. It would then be our responsibility to make sure that we know, hey, Wormies, how much tonnage are you bringing in? Because that is tonnage that would be going to the landfill if it wasn't diverted. It's going to be a lot harder to understand at that household level if somebody's putting that in their compost bin in the backyard, for instance. But there are calculations, there are methodologies for how we do that. They're not going to be super specific, but there are some general numbers that we can sort of extrapolate for the population. The organics place is a really interesting one. I always use your former colleague, Commissioner Bulkowski, as my poster child for that. Commissioner Bulkowski has his Wormies bucket, right? And I know if I open his bucket, I'm only going to see coffee grounds and eggshells and banana peels. But if I roll that same program out to 9 of his neighbors, without education, without a lot of hand-holding, without a lot of like, hey, this is what goes in it and what doesn't, the contamination rate on that is going to be to the point where the end processor's just not going to be able to use it. They're not going to be able to take it. And we saw that on the recycling side too. When we roll out recycling without education and without a lot of, this is proper, this is what can go in, what can't, you get a lot of contamination, and then a lot of that material can't be processed. So that the true sort of composting approach, diversion for organics is one thing, but then we think we also still need, similar to what was being proposed with the bioenergy facility, a mixed waste processor that can handle really contaminated organic material. Multifamily units in Kent County don't even have access to recycling now. So now we're going to throw organics on top of that. I mean, it could be a real problem for contamination. And so we have to be thinking of a spectrum of everything from the folks that are really committed to this and have the time and the energy and the desire to put only banana peels in there. And what I would say is more of the general population that's just downtown for an event, never seen an organic collection bin before, and goes, well, I think this coffee cup's organic, and throws it in the bin. How do we have a system on the back end that can handle that? So it's complex. It's going to be exciting to go through this planning process and pull that all apart and figure out what are all the different components that we need to be thinking about.
Exciting, Steve says. I blame Chair Steck for placing me on DPW, because now, instead of flipping through cable television and watching a show, I see a show on trash. I'm like, hey, I better watch this for a little bit. So,
I was watching Amazing Race, and they were in Denmark, and they were showing how they handled, and I'm talking to my wife, and she's rolling her eyes, so I feel your pain, I truly do. And I'm tortured, because every time I see a trash can on the side of the road, I think about work, so I think about work 24/7.
yeah, there's a lot to it. I appreciate both of your work for it. All right, we have a motion and support to move this forward to the full board. All those in favor of the plan, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, that has been approved, and we'll move to a full board on 125. Next item on our agenda, brought to us from the Human Resource Department, labor agreement for the Police Officers Labor Council. Amy, I'm assuming. Do I have a motion and support on this before we have any questions? By Bujak, support by LeGrand. I'm assuming we might have a couple questions, so commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Ponstein.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Ponstein. I will be quick. I just want to say reading through the changes, I think they're all really great, and I'm glad that we're able to provide these things for our employees. So that was the only comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Well,
Sure,
that'll show
Ponstein.
my comments then. So we've got these agreements, and the word agreement in my category is that we've agreed that this is okay. So is there anything that wasn't covered in the agreements that our employees and the unions that represent them are looking to the future of maybe addressing? Any surprises on the horizon?
Well,
Or concerns, that is a better word
Yeah.
than surprise.
I think that the theme of this round of contract negotiations was one where there were very high expectations amongst the employees of Kent County. And that was probably our primary challenge, is just finding an agreement that enough people felt met their expectations for what we would bring to the package as an employer. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. The demographics don't support any kind of easing of the current challenges that we have in finding and keeping good talent. So I would see that as continuing on into the horizon, just managing and meeting expectations with the limited resources that we have.
Thank you, Chair. There's two components to the human resource package that are very important to the sheriff and her office. And it's very competitive in the state, trying to find individuals to come work for your county as a sheriff or your city as a policeman is very, very difficult. I think we're blessed that financially, we're in a position where we can make this offering. And those two components, attract and retain, this gives the sheriff the tools that she needs to do both of those, attract and retain. So I think this is great that we, have this before us, and I'm definitely supportive of it. And thank you so much for the negotiations on behalf of the county.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. This may have been asked through one of our other approvals, but we have this new high deductible health plan, but all of the other options for health plans are still on the table as
Yeah.
choices as well?
Yes, yeah, it's just one choice above and beyond the two existing plans that we already have.
Okay, and then that will not change? Those will remain available through this contract period?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Any other commissioners? I guess, seeing the life insurance on all three of these proposals, and having that ability to go to 450, reflecting what somebody would need to raise a family if something happened to someone, I think that's very important in there as well. So that stuck out to me. Obviously, I'm a big fan of our self-insuring fund as well. I think we save the county millions and millions of dollars. I believe that's a $250,000 stop-loss policy through Blue Cross Blue Shield, $200 or $250, maybe it just got raised, I think, to $250.
Yep, 250, yeah.
So I think that's important. I guess I got one question for Administrator Vanderberg, and then it's probably a different pot of money, but as our new insurance pool grows, that's just for more liability, general insurance. Can that get used for stop losses for health or potentially, or what's your plan?
No, the insurance authority is limited to property and casualty insurance, and in fact, we can't use it legally for workers' comp, and we also can't use it for health.
Great. Do we just self-fund that stop loss on a yearly basis, or have an escrow fund, or how do we do that each year, Amy, when it comes to our stop loss with employees? I'm assuming we have a handful that hit that every year.
Yeah, I'm going to take a stab at this, and if I get it wrong, I'll rely on Jeff Dode to correct me. We have an account that all of the payments that legally can be funded as part of our healthcare program come out of, and I would assume that the payments for stop loss come out of that same account, including, stop loss, but also like claims for healthcare expenses and other types of healthcare-related costs. Yeah, okay.
I like they just nodded and said yes. So anyways, I'm kind of a self-insurance geek. I think it's a really a great tool for any business, especially at the county and where I came from at the city level as well. I had that, and again, just millions of dollars that we save our community and taxpayers it goes unnoticed, but it's a very important thing that we do here at the county. So thank you. All right, any other questions? If not, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All of those opposed? No. So that has been approved. I mean, all those that want to vote no, that was not a no vote on me, by the way. All right, next item on our agenda. I got to way back to my agenda here. Again, brought to us by the Human Resource Department, labor agreement for the Kent County Deputy Sheriff's Association. Do I have a motion, please, by LeGrand, supported by Baker? Comments or questions from commissioners? Commissioner Bujak.
I'll say it again, 2 words, attract and retain. This is the tools that we need, and I think, what we've done here is great.
And your comment on the future. All right, Commissioner Hennessy.
One of the summary statements is a single pay scale will apply for corrections officers. Can you explain that a little bit more in detail?
Sure. In 2016, a dual-tier pay system was established for corrections where people who were hired before July 1 of 2016 would reach the top of the pay scale after 5.5 years. And I believe initially when we implemented the dual-tier pay scale, new hires on or after that date would reach the same top of the pay scale, but over, I believe it was 19.5 years. We, over time, reduced that to 15.5 years, and now there's a single pay scale in place where people will reach the top after 10 and a half years. Anybody who is already at the top is grandfathered at the top of the new pay scale, so nobody is taking a reduction in pay, and everybody, even the grandfathered employees, will continue to enjoy annual cost of living increases.
All right, great.
Is the dual pay scale still in place for any other group of employees?
Yep, we continue to evaluate the market, and I think we made some good progress, for instance, with UAW, and we did eliminate the dual pay scale for quite a few positions and jobs. That's coming up next, as a result of our market analysis. But we are still looking at a market-based pay system, and as those opportunities come up to eliminate those dual-tier wages, we take advantage of those as much as we can.
All right, any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed? That has passed and will be brought to the full board on January the 25th. Again, another item brought to us by the Human Resource Department. Amy's been busy this season, labor agreement for the UAW. All right, do we have a motion by Pacula, supported by Diaz? All right, commissioners, comments, questions, or concerns? Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, what are the 27 classifications, a few of them? I know like nurses are represented by UAW, but what are the other ones? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we have over 400 employees in the UAW, and it's the unit that represents employees if they aren't specifically represented by another union, so it's like maybe informally a catch-all. So there are a lot of different job classifications, but I can get you a list of what they are if you're interested in seeing that.
That's good enough. I just was kind of curious.
Okay.
All right, any other comments or questions? Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, and not really pertaining to this. Do you have an idea what are the other, do we have any other contracts that are up in 2024 that you're going to be working on?
Yep, there are two existing agreements that we're still working on that expired at the end of 2023. TPOAM, which represents the courts. With that agreement, the process is called fact-finding. So a fact finder hears the arguments from both sides as it relates to unresolved issues, and they issue a recommendation. Once that recommendation is issued, both sides have to meet at least once within the 60 days that follow and engage in efforts to try to resolve the disagreements. If the agreements can be resolved, then great. If not, then the County Board of Commissioners does have the legal right to approve a contract based on the employer's last best final offer.
Okay.
So that's the first one, yeah.
Do you have an idea when that 60 days is up? I'm guessing it's probably soon if it was the end of 2023.
Yep, we are scheduled to have a fact-finding hearing next month, so the process takes a bit. There are quite a few steps to identifying who the fact finder is going to be, and scheduling, and all of that kind of takes a little bit of time, preparing exhibits. So we're in that preparation phase right now, so that'll take place in, I believe it's on Valentine's Day, if I remember correctly. So, yeah.
Well, I figured I'd wait to say this until now, but again, what I said last year, I really appreciate the work that you've done. It's these conversations, negotiations are easy, and up to this point, it's clear that you've done a great job, and thank you for those efforts.
And I didn't want to forget to mention that I'm part of a team, and there's no way this could have happened without the larger team, which includes Stephanie Hernandez and Darius Quinn in HR, also Holly Hartley, who works in HR and oversees benefits, Hillary Arthur, who has provided legal representation, and Jeff Dode, and Al Vanderberg, who have provided overall guidance from a strategic level and financial guidance. So I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but I'm so incredibly grateful for everybody on the team. So
thank you for those shout outs.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of those efforts too.
There is one other contract that still is outstanding, that is for our patrol deputies. So they initially, the employees voted the contract down. We believe there was some misinformation, so we have engaged with the union's consent and blessing, and kind of a initiative to make sure that everybody is at least clear on the facts of what's being offered, and another vote is scheduled for this week. So we'll know more after that.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Diaz, for that, and Amy as well. All right, I think Commissioner Hennessy said, I think that was kind of her question in there. Are you good? All right, is there anyone else? If not, all those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, that has been approved and moved to our full board meeting on the 25th. Commissioner Ponstein?
Miscellaneous?
Yes.
So
You're
I
itching, so.
noticed that some individuals came into the room that have spoke public comment in the past and with the weather and driving. Is it out of line to ask if they want to speak to public comment?
I am going to continue our agenda and move to Commissioner Miscellaneous and adjournment after that. We do have a meeting for the John Ball Zoo after this.
Yeah, but the three that walked in.
I am not, public comments at the beginning of the meeting, and that's where I'm going to leave that.
Okay.
Commissioner Miscellaneous, do I have any other Commissioner Miscellaneous? All right, Commissioner Diaz.
Just very quickly, I was curious as to how we were going to proceed this year with our 2024 legislative priorities, both at the state and federal levels. Do we have an idea on when that process will begin or how it'll look like?
Yes, I have been working with staff on that. Lori and I have talked last week, and there are going to be some items that we'll be talking about with our legislative priorities.
Okay, and is that going to be coming before LHR, or how does that process work?
That will be something that will come to LHR. It'll be, we'll come together as a leadership group, look at that. If there are some items that you want us to consider, I would ask that you send that in an email form to us if you can, please.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other Commissioner Miscellaneous? Seeing none, meeting is adjourned. And don't forget the John Ball Zoo informational meeting next door.